we've been through the spiritual and emotional equivalent of a really bad accident. And we're all busted up, but the injuries are all on the inside. We're bringing with us not just the addiction that exists and the wreckage that we've just created. We're bringing with us all of our baggage and childhood traumas that we've gone through that actually played a role in us becoming the addicts that we are.
In Houston, we were the only recovery community organization. That's how we got involved in the Houston Recovery Initiative. This Houston's ROSC, Recovery Oriented System of Care. Made sure we stayed connected with other organizations because, like our name, Center for Recovery and Wellness Resources, we wanted to connect you to an organization or an institution that could help you build your life.
From the Gulf Coast to the desert mountains, from the river border to the high plains, from the frontier to the inner city, in every corner of our Texas communities, you will find people in recovery from mental health and substance use challenges.
I will tell you to this day, that is the best thing that Centercourt has done, is look at the population. Instead of a one-size-fits-all, everybody has an opportunity to enter into this continuum of care wherever they see fit.
The higher the need and the fewer the resources that somebody has, then the more support that they need from the recovery community when they come in.
With stigma all around them and services too few and far between, they chose not to wait for solutions. They created solutions.
In order to create change, you have to look at that system. Yes, you absolutely have to focus on individuals as well, but to move the needle on some of those larger societal issues, you have to be able to look at it from a systems perspective.
The Wheelhouse is the only place, Southeast Houston area, that I know of that does what we do. And by does what we do, I mean 30 days, no cost.
They need a treatment center with detox, and then they need to go to a well-established recovery home that has a good staff.
And there was treatment, there was a lot of things for people while they were in a controlled environment, but there wasn't too much for anyone once it came out of treatment or came out of prison.
Stories of healing, of resilience, of leadership, of quiet transformation rarely make the headlines. The narrative is incomplete, overlooking the more powerful truth that recovery is not tragedy, it is hope.
I think it's important to have someone in front of you who's offering you a meal and a place to sleep, to also be someone who has been down the road that you've been down when you get here.
You have to have a voice. People like me in the community and others that I know, we have to get together as a coalition, or we have to get together and say, we know we can identify the problem, but here we are, we're getting ready to do something about it.
The council shaped my life. It shaped my recovery. It's added to my recovery. I'm Laura Easton, and I am on the advisory board for the Council on Recovery in Houston.
I'm David Sunday. I'm the Community Engagement Manager and Veteran Liaison here at the Council on Recovery. I'm a person in long-term recovery and also a service-connected veteran.
I would say the council is very much of a connector. I feel like we are in the intersection. We're the place to start when people don't know what to do, and we can help guide and direct people. Marty Mann was one of the first women who had some time in continuous sobriety in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And Marty had a moment in her life where she became very aware and was just called to educate about the disease of addiction and alcoholism. Marty kept saying, we need to educate the world about this. We've got to go and tell our key market cities. And Marty comes to Houston and speaks to this group and says, this is a disease. And Houston immediately said, you're so right. We have this problem. We know people with this problem. And we're able to put some funds in and start what was called the Houston Committee for Education on Alcoholism. And that is how this organization started. The roots are education. We were born in 1946. Recovery encompasses so much more than alcohol and drugs. So not that long ago, we became the Council on Recovery. Prior to Marty Mann, it was pretty bleak. The treatment for people with alcoholism was electric shock therapy. There were narcotic farm where people would be sent to. There wasn't hope and solution, an effective way to see someone come through recovery and to begin to be a contributing member of society. And today, it's 180 degrees.
Everything I've built in this last 11 years has been by my own hand. I was 2 years sober living at a downtown homeless veterans program, working at the VA, inpatient escort, trying to do service work. And I met a lady from the council that was teaching a recovery coaching class here, and she saw me and said, "You would make a great recovery coach." I'm like, "What is that?" I went home and looked it up and what peer support was. I'm like, "That's what I'm gonna do." And I took a class here, and when I got done with the class, 2 weeks later, the council actually called me. "We love the energy that you bring and who you are, and we want to make a position here for you at the council, working at the front desk with people that are coming in trying to get into treatment. We would love you to come and share your hope and strength with people." I was like, "Oh my God, I love this. Yes, yes."
The council became a way for me to be of service and to give back and to help create this environment where it's totally okay to come in and get help. We do so much at the council for reducing shame and stigma. I came into recovery so broken and so full of shame and self-loathing. I came in here and there's a place to sort of fall apart. There's a place to find people just like me. There's a place to learn about why I was doing what I was doing. There's a place to process that.
That's one of the jobs that the council does, is give people the ability to become something they didn't even know they could do. 1,500 calls a month come through the call center here at the Council on Recovery. Those are for various addiction resources. Very few of those are actually for resources that are found here on this campus. Mostly our job is to make sure that we're connecting people to the proper resource in the community. It's taken me almost 12 years to build back trust and acceptance and all of these things that I had lost in my 28 years of drug and alcohol addiction. It's taken me 12 hard years of work to get some of these things back. It's a lot of hard work, but it's beautiful and it's worth it.
I continue to do this work in my own recovery and for the council. I want everyone to get the help that I got. I want everyone to experience the belonging I feel here. When that phone rings and somebody on staff answers it, we need to have our staff in the place to say, "I'm right here right now."
I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is that I am an asset to the community today. I was a child of CPS. I really hadn't experienced, a lot of love growing up. Ended up, just on the streets, homeless. And then I ended up going to prison. And I just knew that my life was spiraling out of control. When I finally surrendered in 2003 and started really getting new principles to live by, I really didn't know that I was effective with helping others. I had sponsees that were staying sober. They would say stuff like, "You ought to be a counselor." And at that time, I was a janitor. So thought about, what they said, and I said, well, let me try. There was a gentleman named Dylan West that had an idea, and he was really on fire to bring the Recovery Initiative to Houston.
Dylan West was a person in recovery who worked in the criminal justice field and brought that training back to Houston, and it was taken off by storm. We were all taking the training here.
In 2010, when I got sent to coaching through my employer, Dylan was my instructor. And he was a very compassionate, very low-key, grounded individual. He was really able to connect to the recovery community, and especially me. At that time, I had experienced some of the barriers and obstacles when you're trying to find a safe place to live. After I got my LCDC, I started looking into opening a house for women. And I took the recovery coach class, and I asked Dylan to help me put recovery coaching in housing. I guess I fell in love with the dude. We had like minds, like hearts for the community. He was on his journey building an RCO. I was on my journey building housing. We stayed married about 12 years until he passed. Dylan's background was a lot like almost everybody's background. You had great intentions to succeed in life, and then the drugs and the alcohol comes in, and he got put in prison. And Richard had developed the SAFE program.
The Substance Abuse Felony Punishment Facilities, or SAFE-P, identified inmates with substance abuse problems and offered in-prison treatment programs, followed by residential aftercare and transitional treatment centers. With support from Senator Ted Lyon, Governor Richards pushed this ambitious program through the legislature. The first inmates to complete the program started the Winner Circle, a peer support network of recovering ex-offenders. Winner Circle members are sponsors, volunteers, and mentors to current and former inmates that are looking to stay in recovery and build new lives for themselves.
A bunch of those individuals decided to come together in the Winner Circle, which was a peer support network. They put their heads together and they wrote a curriculum for ex-offenders in order to help them not go back to prisons. Dylan started to look into other avenues of peer support. He connected with William White and a bunch of other individuals around Texas. And he went to Connecticut to get the recovery coaching training, brought it back to Houston, and just started training people. He was really in tune to what we could do to support individuals that wanted to live and change, get their lives together. Center for Recovery and Wellness Resources is a recovery community organization established back in 2010 to help individuals that wanted to recover and have that support. It's like a drop-in center, but we added other components based on the needs of the community, such as housing, transportation, medication to assist with opiate use disorder. We have a doctor that works with us. It is a place for individuals that want to work in this field, that they get trained and learn how to help others in recovery. It really encompasses a lot of energy and, love and acceptance. Regardless of what your needs are, we want to be a resource to help connect people to other organizations as well.
Dylan and Dorothy West are champions that made it very possible to have recovery in the community. And they not just talked it, they walked it, and they made it possible to have recovery events that we attended. And they showed us how to mold recovery in your community, is what Dorothy did. And she's still doing that today.
Dylan, he had a lot of respect and a lot of regard from people around the community, not just peers, but other business professionals. And he really was slow to speak. And so when he did speak, it really carried a lot of wisdom and guidance. He was easy to follow. He was an example of what work in this community is about. I almost say he gave his life to this initiative, the Recovery Initiative.
I really believe there's a spirit and energy in these houses that is really powerful, more powerful than anything I've seen anywhere else. I can't even tell you how I found myself at House of Extra Measures. It happened for me. I didn't try to do it. Things just opened up, and I guess that's a part of surrender, but I just ended up there.
My mom was a force of nature. She was an entity unto herself. She was a superb human being to begin with. Very loving, very caring, very passionate, and very dedicated.
I met his mother when we both first got sober, clean, in '95. We became good friends, and we supported each other as friends. For about 8 years. Eventually got married. We started the House of Extra Measures.
Well, I actually began my recovery journey in 1994, and in a 10-year time period of in and out and getting over a year twice, I finally sobered up in 2004. I moved into an Oxford house, and I rapidly began doing service work with Oxford. Helped open up 5 houses.
In response to the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988, the state of Texas began supporting the expansion of Oxford houses, community-oriented and democratically run sober living homes. The first Oxford house in Texas, Willowwick, opened in Austin in 1990.
That's kind of where I cut my teeth and learned about recovery housing, learned more about the recovery community than I ever had previously, once I finally decided to stay. Got the opportunity in 2008 to help my mom, who was also in recovery, and my dad, Sam, also in recovery, get a women's house started, and then I had an opportunity to get a men's house going in 2010. Been working in the recovery field since 2010.
Ralph has always been the backbone. He really has. And his mother was real strong, like you said. She was good going out and communicating with other people and bringing people in.
When somebody first comes in, they need a lot of support. Somebody, a first time in recovery person that, let's say they haven't developed any job skills, maybe comes from intergenerational addiction, that it's been a cycle, broken family. The higher the need and the lower the recovery capital resource that people have, the more structured of a house they need. It's not just about the physical structure. It's about the vibe that goes on. And if you believe in vibes, as I do, there's a good spiritual vibe. Their first encounter, the first day, 2 days, 3 days, there's probably a lot of anxiety that goes along with coming into a new household and with new people. We have very welcoming communities for folks to come into that kind of softens the landing.
I really care about people. I think I've always cared about people, and recovery has given me that opportunity to actually show up for people and have empathy for people because I've also walked the same path.
It is about helping each other, promoting that spirit of helpfulness. And when those conversations are happening, that's when the voice is being found. That's when vulnerability is able to be practiced. And I'm sharing about me and what I've achieved, and this is what I see me in you, and creating those situations and those circumstances, it helps build intimacy because it builds trust.
I'll see the impact immediately. They make me get uncomfortable, but it was a good uncomfortable, it was for growth, helped me grow up a lot. Really want to do something with my life. Gave me choices that I never thought I had. I couldn't ask for nothing better than this place.
Going to recovery home taught me that in between, from treatment to living life on my own, and being a mom again, it gave me that time to learn how to grow up and take care of myself and learn what was the reason I was really using, worker program, all those things that I didn't know anything about. So I really needed that in between, that recovery home to teach me all those things that I was missing from growing up and why I went out and used to begin with.
My name is Cheryl McCurdy, and I'm trained as a historical ethnographer. So I work at really focusing on community needs and working in communities. Really, it's nice that we're here in Houston at one of Project Home's women's homes, because it really started, I think, with conversations, hearing that there was a possibility for funding through the state for people who were using MOUD.
Medications for opioid use disorder, also known as MOOD, are evidence-based medications used to support medically assisted recovery and long-term success for opioid use.
We received this opportunity, I think we started talking about this 2018. The state wanted to do something with medication assisted.
It was an unmet need. All the while knowing that there was, at that particular point in time, 2018-ish, there was a horrible stigma against MOUD.
I went and got myself educated and was able to internalize that the medications, when used as directed, it helps save lives. No different than somebody who is on an antidepressant or an antipsychotic.
So Santa Maria was an early adopter of medically assisted recovery. And, really that came down to looking at the research and saying, this is the gold standard of care for many individuals who are struggling with opiate use disorder and even now alcohol use disorder. We became involved with Project Homes, which provides housing that is specific for individuals in recovery who also are receiving medically assisted recovery.
It's now the 5th year of the program. We were able to work with people inside HHSC who believed in us and who were really ready to support us. And we were able to begin with 14 homes, and now we have 15 homes, and we're getting ready to open a 16th. And it's across the state of Texas. We've interviewed over 100 people who are residents in these homes to find out what their stories are about living in the homes and about their experience of being on mood.
Perception that's out there is that they're still using drugs, that they're not fully clean.
The really important and fundamental reason why someone who is on MOUD needs to be in a house that supports MOUD is because of the greater societal stigma that's around MOUD.
One thing they helped me with too is getting back good with my family, getting that healthy relationship with them. They showed me how to have healthy confrontation with my family and address issues, and then work in a program. It was the first time that I worked a program, and it was really big for me. It was life-changing for me, and my family can see it as well. It's a bigger impact than just me.
What they need to know when they've been rejected by these longer-term groups of AA or NA that aren't familiar really with the changing opioid scene is that it's okay. There are multiple paths to recovery, and that this is one of them.
The mission of Santa Maria is to empower women and their families to lead healthy, successful, productive, and self-fulfilling lives. And originally, Santa Maria started in 1957. It started as a halfway house for young women. There was really no place for women to go and have safe shelter once they aged out of orphanages, or maybe they were coming back from incarceration.
Santa Maria is extremely important for women with children, pregnant women. There's not a lot of resources. It's almost as if the only thing that exists for us here in Houston.
By the 90s, they looked around and they were like, all of our women have substance use issues. And so that really started that look at recovery and treatment and that focus on women with substance use disorders. One of the programs that we have at Santa Maria is an alternative to incarceration. And the program works within the justice system to find women who are currently pregnant. And rather than that mom delivering and having to immediately give that child up to either a family member or going into the child welfare system, mom and baby are able to come to Santa Maria, and mom actually serves the rest of her sentence here. Still, across Texas, we're one of the few providers that allows a mom to bring her children with her while she accesses substance use treatment. So it's very needed, it's very necessary. One of the main reasons why a woman might not want to come to treatment is because she doesn't know what's going to happen to her children.
This is where I got sober, at Paschal. I was on probation. I came here through Rush State Hospital, and I knew when I saw the folks there that was behind 20 feet gates that couldn't come back to society, I said, if I keep drinking, I'm going to be in there, and I don't want to be in there. I think when I realized that I had a problem, all my doors were closed, I had an opportunity to live here, have a counselor, have a sponsor. I knew that I could stay on the path of recovery if I had support. So I learned a great deal being here, to take it very seriously about saving my life. When I made that decision, I started putting it into action. It was not easy. I had to have a lot of support.
Our coaches are there from the beginning. They're helping to motivate women to engage in treatment. They're going out into the community if moms don't show up for their appointments. They are really that glue that helps hold that team together with the care coordination. And I think really showing that Santa Maria places that value on lived experience and that we are walking alongside our participants. We are not providing to them. We're not telling them what to do. We're saying, what do you want to do with your life? What are your goals for the future?
This room actually is a gathering place for the internal community and for the external community. What I mean by that is that the women and their children, they come here and they relax, they play, they bring their toys down, and they get a chance to just take a break from, work and coming home, eating. They have to fix their dinners, and they come in here and they just relax, talk to each other, have that type of a relation here.
And I'm so proud to see that we're moving the needle on maternal and child health outcomes, and we're seeing, positive, healthy birth weights. We're seeing moms that are improving their behavioral health. And that has those ripple effects across the lifespan. We had been receiving increased number of referrals from Austin and the Central Texas area since COVID, and really since Austin Recovery shut down their family-based program. Now we have a treatment facility that we have signed on. I'm so excited. And so it was the old BRC treatment facility. It's in Manor, right outside of the Austin city limits.
So what do people like me do? You know how many Amelia Murphys is out there just watching? They're just watching me. And they do watch me because they're like me, but they want to see, it's just like I was watching so many people and I was like, I want to do that, So that's how the community builds itself. And I just bring them along. So, come on, you're going to be a volunteer today.
When you're in a place where you're at the bottom, where you're hopeless and you don't know what else to do, and you finally decided that you're going to go to treatment or that you're going to, get help, being able to see other people who have walked that journey that now are thriving, they've got great careers, they've got great families and friends. They look at those coaches and they say, I want that. I want that for my life. So I think for me, that's something that's just amazing, to be able to see the hope and the transformation for our women and be able to see that there is a future and they have the right to have that future too.
I'm Kimberly Reeves, and I am the facility director of the Deer Park location of Synacor. I am not the only graduate that is in an administrative role. We have people in recovery all the way through executive leadership. So that's how we stay in the mission. Synacor was founded back in the 60s, and it was a group of guys who had just come out of prison, and they were struggling with heroin addictions. And it was a group of people that band together and had a community, and they held each other accountable for behaviors. They built out a behavior modification or a therapeutic community. That's where we started. We've since evolved, very much so. Once we got involved in residential and detox services, we were able to see everybody deserves treatment. It doesn't matter if you've lost your job and you are homeless, right? It does matter. We want to help you for sure. What about the person who doesn't need to lose their job, who doesn't need to go all the way to that level of a bottom? We had to think about those people too. We've branched off into peer recovery support specialists, and I have some pretty phenomenal coaches. We saw the coaches as a way of keeping in contact with individuals who are going into our recovery house, but it's really just one person with lived experience meeting another person with experience where they're at. People come to us and they're full of shame and guilt and remorse, all of those things. And there is a notable difference in the energy because they're truly invested in the client as an individual. The biggest barrier I see to continued treatment and rehabilitation is recovery housing, there not being any funding, particularly for the portion of population we serve that is economically challenged. If you come in and you're state funded or you are insured, you should have the same level of care, the same quality of room, the same benefits. And you cannot do that on a state dollar. Right now it's $123 a day, and it's about 60% under what it should be. That's the challenge that we have today. If we're gonna put funding into something next, it has to be recovery housing. I'm sorry, I get excited about this one because it's so obvious, maybe to me, maybe to people like me, how obvious it is. We're just missing huge opportunities left and right. In 2021, we suspended our behavior modification, our therapeutic community, because what we recognized is we have just about as much opportunity with a recovery housing as we did with long-term to support people who need long-term care. And we do that very well. You're doing all the things that keep your life structured and headed in the right direction. And it's great to watch. And when the choice is business or mission, it's 51% mission every time, 49% business. And as long as we keep that, then we're doing things for the right reason.
The Wellhouse was founded in 1952 by Hub Carroll, a resident of Deer Park, very much beloved man of this community. Hub Carroll was a town drunk in Baytown. Hub Carroll was in the hospital experiencing organ failure in 1950. When he was released from the hospital in 1950, he found Alcoholics Anonymous, both the fellowship, the meetings, as well as the 12 steps in the book, Alcoholics Anonymous. He was able to sober up and stay sober, so he decided to take the steps seriously. One of the steps, step 12, is go out and bring the message of hope to those who want to get sober. Hub Carroll was driving around Houston picking up drunks under overpasses and bringing them back to his house. And his wife said, "You can't bring them back to my house anymore. You need to take them somewhere else." So he bought the house next door. He welcomed drunks, he welcomed drug addicts from the jails in Deer Park and from the overpasses around us in Pasadena and South Houston to stay in that home for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, as long as it took to get to a point where they could take care of themselves. We're just trying our best to do what Hub Carroll did, which was provide a safe place for a man who wants to get clean and sober, and a safe place to figure out after they get sober, where do they go next with their job, with their families. We've always focused on that, and we still do today. Men only. We keep the formula very simple here. We have a very strong fellowship of men coming back to help the men who are in the house. And we start that culture from the very beginning. When a man comes in the wheelhouse, he drops his belongings, and they're available for him to pick up and leave at any time. The doors are never locked. Once he moves into the dormitory, have to take care of that new man who comes in. Once he moves into our second phase, part of his job is to take care of the men in the first phase. If he moves over into our sober living, which is our third phase, part of his job is to take care of the men who are in the first and second phase. So when men move out, that's ingrained in them to come back and help. And so they come back and mentor, offer jobs, help with rides, and also sponsor as Alcoholics Anonymous fellowship members, sponsoring one man. All of our rules and the work that we do in 12-step recovery and the culture that we have keeps each of our men who are here and men who are coming back focused on helping the man who came in just before you. The day I was brought to the wheelhouse, I had been confronted by two people who cared about me. And at that time, I had just been out of Harris County Jail for the third time, and I was homeless. I had no place to go. And I found myself outside of this building crying and calling out to God, just tell me what to do. And I heard, stop lying to them, stop lying to yourself, and stop lying to me. And it was in that moment that I realized, not only do I want to stop creating the kind of havoc that I've created, I also want to stop lying. It hit me real hard right at about 2 weeks sober that what I want is a solution to all of my problems, not just my drinking problem. And then I stayed at the Well House for 7 months. I did everything the Well House told me to do, and that is my sober day on March 24th, 2009. And I'll be clean and sober 16 years. I was asked to be the executive director. I'm the first executive director for the Well House in 2018. However, even though I was the first to be hired as an executive director, the Well House hasn't changed. It's still run by volunteers. We have 74 men in this metal building in the middle of Deer Park. It blows my mind that the city is okay with that. Not only is the city okay with it, they participate in our fundraisers. They participate in our success stories. We have a focus on doing service work in our community, not the same as community service. We have a day labor hotline where people in the community can call and ask, can someone come over and help build a fence or paint my garage? 1/3 of our expenses are covered by rent payments. So residents, after 30 days, start to pay for the bed they sleep in. However, they're not kicked out if they cannot. They get a job and they start paying rent for their beds. 1/3 of our expenses are covered by fundraising. So we have 3 major fundraisers a year. And the other 1/3 of our expenses are covered by individual and company and corporate donations. The Well House has never accepted any kind of government funding. We've never accepted any kind of foundation funding that has any strings attached. So why does the community take care of us and respect us so much? Because we take care of the community and respect the community.
I believe, and even Dylan believed, that for us to really be effective, we needed to know what the people wanted. And of course, we were the people. We are people in recovery. And I just want to serve as an example, because if you don't believe you can do it, all you're going to do is step out and try. Knowing that there is relief on the other side keeps me hopeful. That if they don't hear me now, if I stay joyful and hopeful for them while they're going through it, then perhaps one day they will get there. There is hope that keeps me showing up to work every day.
Randy Joe's spirit, my mother's spirit, definitely lives on within the women's houses. And quite frankly, she had required me to make a deathbed promise to her that I would not convert the houses to men's houses. I made that promise to her that we would keep the women's house going. And then now we've got the 2 women's houses as a part of the Project Home Study. There's not a single house meeting that goes by where something isn't mentioned, a phrase or a thought process or a philosophy on something about how my mom did the women's houses, on how it's still being done. It began as a passion. The spiritual reward that comes from being involved with this and watching residents posting pictures of them with their children that they haven't seen in 3 or 4 years. People getting their GED. People posting pictures of, hey, I just bought a car. It's extraordinarily inspiring, to be a part of something that helps people in such ways.
Working at Santa Maria has been a privilege. It has been an honor to work with these families. My staff are amazing. Many of my team members, they've been with me for years. Those connections are hard to leave, but I'm so proud of what we've done. And, this organization has made such an impact in the Houston community. And now moving on into Central Texas, and being able to see that growth over the years and, being secure that that's not going to stop. Santa Maria is going to continue to grow and evolve and meet the community needs and continue to be stronger and be innovative and, be a front runner in recovery.
I'm executive director because it's satisfying as a career. I work with alcoholics because my recovery is dependent on doing it. I have to. If I wasn't executive director, I'd be up here working one-on-one, which I still do. I have a life today that is way more than I ever dreamed I'd have when I was homeless and I was brought to the wheelhouse. I will say it's because I have taken the 12 steps and developed a relationship with those around me and with God as I understand God. And this relationship gives me a defense. This relationship with God and this relationship with those around me gives me a defense against drinking and drugging. I can choose not to drink and drug because of this recovery defense that is a result of 12-step work. But I wouldn't have that if I didn't come to the wheelhouse. So.
Change is coming. It's always changing. People change. Are we going to be able to keep up with the change? That's how it informs. And we can keep up with the pace. We just have to be willing to pivot. You have to be willing to do something different. And one thing is you have to be looking 5 or 6 years, 10 years ahead and making assumptions about things that could happen.
Every family in America is probably affected in some way, shape, or form. And if there's anything we can do to make a difference, I really want to be a part of it.
When I found the freedom of saying who I am, it is not being judged or somebody is taking it to a very negative standpoint. When you get that freedom of saying, and it's just saying the recovery movement, just the recovery movement, I felt like I was a part of something that was powerful. I loved saying that I'm a woman in recovery. My name is Amelia, and I'm a woman in long-term recovery with conviction.